you guys and welcome to Mindfulness Mondays. I want to talk to you guys about the currency of consciousness, and that is attention. We have such a deficit of it in this world today. So now that I have your attention, let's chat about the most important, rich, lush resource you have. We are afforded 24/7. Every single second, every single hour, every single minute of our lives, the gift of attention. It's the deepest, richest, most lush resource that we can tap into. Because when we pay attention, we can connect, we can be present. When we pay attention, our mind's not wandering all over the place. And we're not wasting all that energy. Where your attention goes, energy flows. But now we live in a society where we've been so trained to multitask and just to let that attention wander all over the place. And 50 years ago or 100 years ago, it wasn't that bad because there weren't so many things digging at our attention, so many screens and emails and shit to look at. So we weren't deficit in attention. We actually respected and saw a human being on the street and said hello and made eye contact and made those deep, rich connections. So 24/7, you get an opportunity to tap into this commodity. 24/7, you have a power and a commodity oozing out of you, and that is the power of attention. Where is your attention going? What are you spending it on? How can we learn to harness that and start to learn to cultivate attention and awareness in the important areas of our life where it matters the most? So that's what I want to talk to you about today. We're not taught to cultivate awareness and attention. We're not taught ever that it's a valuable asset or commodity. We tell kids to go to school, pay attention, go to school, learn that, pay attention, go to school, learn that, pay attention. And then when we get older, we bypass attention by saying, I'm not going to pay attention to big issues like spirituality. I'm just going to go to this religion and they're going to teach me something, and I'm going to say, yeah, that's good. Okay, now that topic's done, I don't have to pay attention. Or in politics, we have two shiny coins parties that we can say, I like them or I like them, and that makes it so I don't have to pay attention to that anymore. Now I can go over here and watch TV. Or now I can go over here and collect all the boats and the cars in the garage. And you know what's happening at the end of the day? Is that really filling your cup up? No, it doesn't fill our cup up. It leads us to things like attention deficit disorders, depression, lack of fulfillment, fear, worry, doubt. Because what attention gives us when we can hone it, when we can tap into it, and when we can use it, is connection. And really paying attention and finally determining for our own selves through our own experiential knowledge what's really freaking important to us. So two big things are happening when we have attention deficit, when we haven't learned to cultivate attention. We always think, I can't sit down and meditate because I can't still my mind. It's really because your attention's bouncing off the walls all these other places and you haven't really trained it. And that's the first thing that's happening, is all this multitasking, all these screens, all this input. Like, we're oversaturating ourselves with input. So every time an input comes in, whether it's a Facebook post or something, we're like, oh, I gotta check that. Or whether it's a phone call, we're like, oh, I gotta answer that. Or whether it's an email, or I gotta answer that. What's happening when all of those things come in is a sense door pops open and our eyes get drawn to that screen, and then we see what's going on there, and then we react. And if we're not present, when we haven't cultivated attention and awareness, then we're in a place to react from whatever input is coming in. And that's what gets us stuck in these deep grooves, these deep ruts, these deep Monday ruts where every week it's the same thing. There is a gap, there is a space. They talk about this in all sorts of different mindfulness and meditation practices. Osho describes it as there's a gap between, like, the cars on the freeway. There is a distinct gap between each car, otherwise the cars would hit each other. Or if you look up in the sky and you see the clouds, there's a distinct gap of blue sky around the clouds. There's always a gap. And that's the same thing with our thoughts, you guys. And this is what we're doing. We're like boomeranging that attention to this thought and this thought and this thought and this thought and this thought. But when you start to learn to cultivate attention, then your mind gets to that thought, and before it goes to the next thought, you get to stop in this beautiful space in between those thoughts. That blank slate, that place of cultivation for joy, for connection, for presence. So how that plays out in everyday life would be when you connect to your lover and they come home and you handle this one of two ways, and you've had a crappy day and they've had a crappy day, and they come in and say something and then you're like, and you get in an argument. Versus they come home and you come home and you go, you know what? It looks like they've had a bad day. I'm gonna sit with them and just see if I can be present, if I can connect to them. You've all had those connections and communications where a person gives you their full attention. And there's a giving and receiving of attention. And that's where the good stuff lies. That's where the progress is. That's where the liberation is. That's where the joy is. It's when you go for a walk, just going for a walk for the walk of it and getting the exercise, versus going for a walk and then you maybe do a little bit of yoga or tai chi and you get in your body and you start to smell the fresh air, and then maybe you look around at some flowers and you connect to nature and you get so much more out of it. You guys, statistics show you go for a walk out in nature, you slow down a little bit, you pause, you stop to take stock in what's going around you, and you actually, serotonin levels go up in your body. Those happy chemicals go up. The toxic ones get flushed out a little bit more. So it's in those small gaps that we have the opportunity. But one of the biggest opportunities that we have in those gaps is for non-reaction. When you can turn a pivot in one of those gaps from, I'm going to react like I do all the time. I'm going to go down the same rut in my neural pathway that I'm used to doing because it takes less carbohydrates and it's easier. And it's to react and go, well, you never listened to me, and to go, I can feel that coming up. And I'm just going to sit with that sensation and I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to be mindful. And then you end up going way over here and something completely different happens and your brain goes, whoa, wait, what happened? What just happened then? Our neural pathways are trained to go here, and it used to be here and here and here and here. Now we dug that hole so deep, like it gets easier to slip in every time. But the good news is we know the brain is so trainable. There's so much neuroplasticity capable in the brain to make those changes. Our body's so efficient. I keep telling you guys this. It's like a freaking Ferrari, and it's so efficient that our mind will automatically, the synapses in our mind will automatically go, 90% odds, you've been here before, this is how it happened, this is where we're going to go. And it does that for efficiency purposes. But it also does that out of habit. It just slips down into those deep ruts, those deep sankharas. So how this may relate to Mondays is you've gotten in a habit of treating Sunday like Sunday's going to be this perfect day because Monday is shit and I have to go back to work. And that's a rut that you've thought about, and we've gotten stuck in that space over and over and over. So what do we need to do about this? We need to start cultivating attention. Where attention goes, energy flows. Every single day, every single human being is afforded 24/7 a free, liberating commodity. Richer than money, richer than gold, richer than anything. The Buddha sat down under a Lodi tree and he said, after having trained in this method and that method and this method, he was a bad student, he trained in all these methods, he sat down under that tree and was like, I'm going to sit here until I get this. And I'm going to focus my attention here until I become enlightened. And that's when it happened. Because he learned that the key and the tool was cultivating that awareness. He saw this place, this gap where everything comes in through these sense doors. A taste comes in, oh, I don't like that taste, or I do like that taste. There's the reaction. Or something comes in their eyes, I recognize that person, I don't like that person. Or I recognize that person, I love that person. And we are always reacting to everything, and we're reacting to everything that comes in through these sense doors like that, based on old habit patterns and neural pathways in our brain. And the good news is we can change that habit pattern just by cultivating awareness and attention. I never get the response when I say I teach mindfulness or meditation or I'm a meditator that people say, oh, that's a waste of your time. I 100% get a response. It's 100%, oh, I know, that's so good for me. That's good. There's something good there. But I can't do it. Like 90% of the time I get, but I can't do that. I can't sit still. I can't do this. I can't silence my mind. I can't quiet my mind. I can't do that long enough. I know it's good for me. I know it's a beautiful practice to cultivate, but I just can't do that. I don't have time today. Well, over this week, I'm going to have you do two things. First of all, I want you to start counting. This is a commodity, just like money. You can count the dollars, just like you can count and tick off the time of where you spend your attention. I want you to start seeing where you spend your attention, because for a lot of us, and this isn't bad, and still sometimes I watch television once in a while. I'll watch a Netflix thing, or I watch informational things, but I watch that because I say, this is my commodity, and I will not let you steal and rob this rich commodity of mine. This is my attention. This is my energy. This is my time. And if you want my attention, boy, you better be worthy. And we're so not discerning now about what we spend our attention and time and energy on. So I want you to literally start ticking off the time on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on any day you can remember. Start seeing where your attention is going and what you're spending your attention on. That's kind of what I've been building you up to do these last two mindfulness classes, is connecting to see, where is my attention going? And every time my attention goes somewhere else other than the present moment, can I bring it back? And then focus on the breath, and focus on the breath, and get present. Where's my attention going? Come back. The second thing I want you to start doing is start thinking about, what practices could I do every day that would cultivate awareness? One really simple thing you can do. Every time you have a conversation with someone, especially a loved one, somebody you care about, somebody who's a friend, stop and recognize when you're talking to them, when your mind starts to wander away. Because that happens to all of us. That happens to me. I've been meditating for years now. It still happens to me. And by the way, this is a process. We're messy humans. We have these habit patterns. We're just pulling ourselves out of them. But we think about attention deficit disorder and addiction and all our other vices. This is the root of where they're coming from. It's not just stop that addiction and then everything will be well. Stop that, cure that. This is the root. This is the cause of all of our misery, of all of our suffering, of all of our depression, of all of those things, if we can get here. So when you start cultivating mindfulness practices every day, you're on the path, you're working on that track. And there's no right or wrong way. Maybe you do eye gazing with your partner. Eye gazing is a beautiful process to cultivate connection and awareness. And it is so simple. You can sit down with your lover and just say, we're going to spend 1 minute and we're going to stare into each other's eyes, or eye, if it's easier to stare in one eye or the other. And I'm just going to be present and you're going to be present, and we're not going to have any expectations, but we're going to stop and really see each other. Or you can do it to strangers on the street. You'd be surprised how many people you try to grab their gaze and they're like, we have this aversion to this deep connection because we've been so disconnected for so long from it. You could do it with your kids before they go to bed, play a game and say, Mommy loves you so much, we're going to do some eye gazing tonight. It's the tiny little 1 minute blips that we need to start working on, you guys. People talk about starting a meditation practice, and it can be daunting and it can be this big deal, but it really doesn't have to be when we start with little tiny things. Just see the gap here and there when you can. Just see it. Be in it. Recognize it. Recognize that it passed. That's okay too. Oh, I missed that opportunity. That's okay because you recognize and you told your mind, start watching for that opportunity again. We're retraining the mind, the neuroplasticity of the mind. Another way that you could cultivate mindfulness is just by practices of yoga or practices of like taking a mindful walk you can fit in that will just draw your attention here to the present moment as often as you can throughout the day. Just start cultivating that. There's no right or wrong, and there's no method that works for this one person. Our brains are so different, and our life experiences we're all so different, so it doesn't really matter where you start. Just start, and it doesn't have to be big, because it's the baby steps, the consistent baby steps that help us learn to cultivate that attention. I hope I still have your attention at the end of this video. I know I went on and this was a long one, but this is a really important topic, you guys. This is the most important commodity, because the commodity of attention allows us to cultivate the commodity of connection. And from that, everything else flows, to 10 times down the line, the commodity of money when you need to use it. That's not the important one. We hold that one at such high esteem, and we're always worried about the money. But that's just a byproduct of this space. So thanks for joining me today. Namaste.